Prince Zine was born in 259 BC as a prince since his father was the king of the Qin state, now known as China. China was actually split up into 7 different states that would fight each other quite frequently. Prince Zing had become king at the age of 13 when his father had passed away. He had a regent help him until the age of 22 when he decided to take full control and even take over other Chinese states and unite China under one ruler. Once King Zhang had control of his own state, Qin, he went after the other ones one by one. He then conquered them in order of Han, Zhou, Wei, Chu, which was a very powerful state, and shortly after the remaining 2 states, Yan and Qi, fell. Once King Zhe had total control of China, he changed his name to Qin Shi Huangdi, Shi Hung meaning first emperor. Emperor Qin unfortunately became a power-hungry tyrant and outlawed most religions. He only wanted people to be loyal and obedient to the government. He ordered that all books of history be burnt because he wanted history to begin with his rule in the Qin dynasty. Scholars who did not bring the books were killed. Apparently, around 400 were killed as he quoted them being defiant to the country. The emperor's cruelty was the downfall of his dynasty. Before Emperor Qin died in 210 BC, he conscripted hundreds of thousands of people to build the Great Wall of China along with a massive tomb where his body would rest for eternity. In March 1974, a group of farmers found a ceramic sculpture piece, which became one of the greatest discoveries of modern time. They had found an entire army of life-size terracotta soldiers and horses. The Terra-Cotta army consists of more than 8,000 life-size soldiers. The Terra-Cotta warriors averaged a height of 5 feet and 11 inches, although some were made taller and shorter than others. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the resources to create a 5 foot, 11 inch sculpture. However, I wanted to create a miniature sculpture of one of the soldiers. Despite how many soldiers there are, surprisingly, no 2 exactly look alike. This showcased different ages, social ranks, facial expressions, hairstyles, and even different behaviors. Some looked happy and calm, while others mad and ready to fight. Now, over the past 35 years, archaeologists have been able to discover 600 pits across the underground area. Some are super challenging to get to, however, the 3 main pits are easily accessible and can now be viewed in the 4-acre museum that opened in 1979. The soldiers even wear different clothing. The men from the cavalry wore very different clothing and armor compared to a foot soldier. Some soldiers didn't even have armor on. If you think the soldiers look impressive today, they had even more detail 2,000 years ago. They were painted to make them look even more realistic. We can assume that it has worn off over time. They were even made to hold real-life weapons, which you can tell due to the space made in some of their hands. To build so many life-size sculptures, archaeologists believe that over 700,000 artists had worked on this project for several years. The bodies were actually made in an assembly line. The artists created molds for the legs, arms, torsos, and face. They were assembled together, and then the details of hair, mustaches, ears, and weapons were added later to customize the soldier and give him a personality. As you'll see, I started trying to create the legs and the feet, and I ended up hating this, so I throw it to the side. And I went to go look at more pictures, and I realized just how actually round the legs were, so I created 2 different ones and then put them together. Now, back on the idea of customizing the soldiers, there were actually about 8 to 10 different head shapes that the artists used. This was due to the people represented in different parts of China. Although the tombs are most famous for the warriors, there were actually a lot of horses down there. About 150 life-size cavalry horses. There were even 130 chariots and 520 overall horses down with the army. Funny enough, the weapons that were found with the soldiers were actually found in great condition due to the fact that they were coated with a layer of chromium. Due to the huge sizes of both the horses and the sculptures of the warriors, the main pits were found to be about 21 feet deep. Now, the soldiers were in fact made in a mixture of terracotta clay, which is where they ended up getting the name, and is the actual clay that I'm using to create my mini sculpture. When the sculptures were finished, they were probably a color of gray. However, they were covered in colored lacquer and most likely fired in a kiln. Not only were the sculptures huge in height, but the sculptures weigh about 600 pounds. Emperor Qin was obsessed with the idea of immortality. He wanted to conquer death itself by living forever. Now, this may not be true, but I read it in an article that he even tried having his best scientists try to work on an elixir so he would never die. However, this was not the case, but he still built his tomb and had his people make magic soldiers. And if you can't tell, I am putting air quotes on that, to look out and protect him in the afterlife. But funny enough, the actual soldier tomb was found about a mile away from his actual burial tomb. Here is my take on a mini terracotta soldier. Doesn't he look so handsome? Either way, this is super fun for me to make, and I think he actually turned out pretty good. All of my information and photos and videos came from different websites. None of them are mine. I used the websites smithsonianmag.com, news.artnet.com, nationalgeographic.org, a journal article from ebscohost.com, ducksters.com, and khanacademy.org. All the websites will be listed down below.